Hello and welcome to another day in paradise, and welcome to another edition of the Unapologetic Negropian. In today's video, we're going to talk about the relationship between foundational Americans of African ancestry and their continental counterparts. I want to talk about the history, why it is so strained, and whether it is as bad as we say it is. I think a lot of people have been going around saying that we do not like each other at all. And what hope is there for the future? Okay, I want to know how it is we can tackle this. But first, I'm going to ask you to please like, subscribe, share, and click the bell notification. So I'm going to start off today with a story. A story that I experienced. So I remember, I think it was the third time I'd ever gone to the States, 1990, oh goodness. Yeah, it was that long ago, 1993. And it was the first time I'd ever spent any significant amount of time there. So I went there, and I remember meeting a guy there. I used to play basketball with him at the park. South Boogie Down, South Bronx. So I remember asking him where he was from. I don't know why. It wasn't something that I usually ask, but I remember asking him where he was from. He said, yeah, I'm an Afro-American. Okay, so at that time, that was the proper word to call a foundational American of African ancestry. So I said, oh, okay. But I'd never met one before. It was my first time. So I said to him, oh, okay, so you're African, like this. And this guy's face dropped. He was deeply offended by calling him an African. He said, and I can remember him tapping me and saying, oh, it's okay, you don't know any better, And he was like, no, I am not an African. I'm an African American. Now, me, still stunned, didn't quite understand what he was saying. I know now, in hindsight, that he was trying to show me the difference between a continental African and a foundational American of African descent. So it was still confusing to me, not because of him telling me that there's a difference, but his reaction. Now, his reaction wasn't strange. It was pretty typical at that time, especially in the early 90s, when there was still not an influx, but there was still a substantial amount of Africans coming in from the continent, namely from Nigeria. The differences in culture was profound. Most of the Americans of African ancestry weren't so surprised, because they had already learnt who the African continentals were and what they had learnt and where they had learnt it from. Well, we're going to go into this today, because it really builds the backbone of where this dislike for one another has come from. Here we have Africans who have come in straight from Liberia or Nigeria or Ghana. They've landed, right? We're talking early 90s, late 80s, mid 80s, okay? They've landed in America, and they're looking all around. And of course, the atmosphere is not exactly the most pleasant atmosphere for any person of color. I don't like that word, but yeah, I'm going to use it. For any person of color, especially for Africans themselves, because they have really had in the United States the bad end of the stick. So they come in, they see their Afro-American brothers and sisters, and a lot of them are deep in the belief that these people are good people, that they will accept them straight away. Well, sadly, only one of those things were true, because they are good people. But the acceptance part, well, no. Most Americans of African ancestry rejected the Continentals wholly. This, unfortunately, is the sad truth. And this is kind of like a time bomb ticking. Those people that moved to the United States in the late 80s, early 90s, those people, those Africans that came in from Nigeria who became doctors and all sorts of other professions. Now, they didn't all do that, but many of them did. They got brought up in this atmosphere where virtually everybody was hostile to them. Everybody shunned them. Everybody rejected them. But it probably didn't hurt them, because Africans are quite, especially African continentals, they're quite resilient. You can't really hurt them that way, okay? They can get sensitive on matters, but the reality is these people have very thick skin. However, when it came to them being met with this rejection from people who they instantly thought were going to be their brothers and sisters, that one was like a dagger in the heart. So now, 30 years later, those people have grown up, and they've grown with this resentment inside them for the way they were treated by their now African American brothers and sisters at that time. And of course, because of their treatment, their kids, who are now entering their 20s, mid-20s, of course, their kids are being taught to do the same thing. They're being taught that all the things that the Mzungus are telling them are bad about African Americans are bad, and that they are different. This is the reason we can start to feel its impact even more so today, even in the younger ones. I mean, I'm talking about younger ones. I'm talking about the people in their mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s. These guys have been brought up believing that they should hate African ancestry Americans, and the Americans of African ancestry, of course, everything is changing. They know, a lot of them know, that they don't belong. And a lot of them, especially the younger ones, now that they've got the internet and they can see that the way that the Africans are living, and they can see their culture and their deep belief, this deep belief in education to bring them out of hardship. A lot of Americans of African ancestry and continental Africans are starting to see that actually they share a lot more in common than what they thought they did. Dancing, the arts. What I did look at was the relationship between Africa and the Caribbean islands, and why those relationships are not as strained as those of the United States of America. Why is it different? Why is it that Jamaicans are embraced by Africa? I think it's because Jamaicans have embraced Africa long before the Africans embraced them. Okay, so we have literal religions in my country where we kind of worship African people. Rastafarianism is not a huge religion, but its impact on Jamaican culture is extremely strong. You know where a Rastafari comes from, and you know how Rastafaris embrace Ethiopia and Gabriel Haile Selassie as the former living God. There is a lot of foundational Americans of African ancestry in Africa at this moment, and they are doing a lot of good things. I know I've been speaking a lot about Art Cathy lately. I didn't even want to mention her name, but really she is not the norm, okay? And we know this. So there is a lot of good going on, and that is going to multiply. And a lot of continental Africans will learn from the good people and the good that's been happening over there. And eventually they will learn to love you. And I think African Americans and African continentals will learn to love each other again. It's going to be beautiful, but guys, have patience. Please have patience. The ignorance still runs deep. There's still a lot of people who are angry, and they are living off that anger. You've seen it for yourself. Don't let your feelings control you. If you let your feelings control you, they will abuse you, and you will end up being in a worse position than what you started with. So guys, that's just what I wanted to say to you this evening. I'm sorry about this sort of setup. I'm on the road, so I'd like to say thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next one. Think twice, ta-ra a bit.